The National University of Singapore, or NUS, started as a modest medical school with 23 students in 1905. More than 100 years on, the university has close to 20 faculties, schools and colleges across 3 campuses. Over 330,000 students have graduated from its undergraduate and graduate programs. Many of them are now leaders and luminaries in their areas of expertise, influencing diverse aspects of life in Singapore and beyond. In this inspirational series, we learn how the contributions of NUS alumni and faculty are creating a better world, starting with the field of medicine. Professor Chong Yap Seng, the Dean of NUS Medicine, is a leading clinician investigator in obstetrics and gynecology. An advocate of natural childbirth, he made history in 2006 when he delivered the nation's first baby by water birth. Since graduating from NUS in 1988, he has witnessed the birth of hundreds of babies. Till today, it still gives him a special joy to welcome a newborn into this world.
Being at the birth of a child is a really special moment. You know, that's one of the greatest pleasure of being an obstetrician. When they hand the baby over to the mother, and then you see the incredible joy that they have, and often the father will be crying as well. So it's quite an amazing sensation. And at that point, suddenly you sort of move from worrying about the procedure to one of just sharing that communal feeling of joy and happiness. One thing I've also gotten out of this experience is my respect for women. When you watch a woman go through labor, you know, I'm filled with admiration that these women would choose to go through all that effort and pain to deliver the baby safely.
Apart from caring for babies and mothers, Professor Chong has a special interest in fetal growth and child development. Since 2008, he has been leading a major study titled Growing Up in Singapore Towards Healthy Outcomes, or GUSTO. It is Asia's first study to examine how conditions in pregnancy and early childhood influence the development of women and their children. Unknown to many, the idea for GUSTO was inspired by his own personal experience.
In 1999, when my first child was born, and I remember my wife was trying to breastfeed him. I was watching her struggle and I sort of said, why don't you just use that bottle of formula milk that the nurses have left for you? And she sort of got angry with me and said, no, you have to breastfeed. That sort of left a deep impression on me, and so I started to look at all the evidence behind it. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is really important. It never really struck me that breastfeeding was something that I had to emphasize to my patients, and that patients had to be taught how to breastfeed their babies. That sort of started me on my research journey in early life, how to get a child off to the best start.
To this end, Professor Chong is collaborating with academic partners across Singapore, as well as in countries like New Zealand and the United Kingdom. Now in its 13th year, the groundbreaking study has amassed clinical data and samples from over 1,000 families and yielded more than 300 papers published in scientific journals.
Over the years, many insights have been revealed to us. So I guess one of the first ones was that if mothers were stressed during pregnancy, then the child's brain would be affected adversely. So we spotted this because we did the magnetic resonance imaging of the child's whole body, including the brain, at 1 week of life. This is something that almost nobody had done. And then later on, when we tested the children for their readiness for school using various tests, we found that the mothers who had more depressive symptoms, the children were less ready for school. So this was a remarkably important finding for me that reinforces the point that it's important to watch mothers' whole health, not just their physical health, but also their emotional health, so that the children will get a better start to life. Another important finding was the impact of having gestational diabetes on the mother's own health. What we found in Gusto was that within 5 years of being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, about 44% of women will go on to be either diabetic or pre-diabetic. So this was astounding. It affects almost half the women with gestational diabetes, and also the fact that it happens so fast within a 5-year time frame.
How do you find Gusto visits?
Hasli Nawati Abdul Latif, who has a family history of diabetes and hypertension, is happy to be part of the study.
We used to eat more fast food, so now for this we benefit that we change to a healthy lifestyle. So we eat more on vegetables and had a balanced diet.
They tell me what's going on with my body, and if there's something wrong, I can improve.
This study, they also taught me to always be happy, be calm, and also take care of your health. We can also monitor and keep track on her body as well.
11-year-old Aditya Madura is used to being the center of attention at a hospital. He doesn't mind being poked and prodded. Some tests are especially memorable.
One of the first times when I went there, they put me in some machine. It's like an egg-shaped container. I had to just sit inside for some time. Then they would do some scanning. So they just called it a spaceship and asked me to get inside. I feel happy to contribute.
Every 6 months, we have to bring him for this research, either in KK Hospital or NUH. I'm actually updated with his health and his cognitive level. So I'm also happy to know that his result is normal.
So far, Gusto has given us some really interesting insights about the health of mothers and children. So what excites me most is the fact that this is a study that's being done in Singapore on Singaporean children and families, so that everything we find will be relevant to the local environment and can start to guide policy about how we should do things. For example, like the gestational diabetes finding, that was turned by the Ministry of Health into policy in Singapore in 2017, 2018. So now all women are tested for diabetes in pregnancy. But I think the findings we have are not only just relevant to Singapore, I think it's relevant to any Asian megacity. So we think that many of these findings can be translated to policies also in countries around Singapore.
Besides giving back to society through his research and medical practice, Professor Chong also contributes to his alma mater. For over 3 years, he led the school's medical education unit, bagging many awards for his dedicated service. In 2019, he became the Dean.
The thing that inspired me most to join NUS was the role models I had as a medical student. All the role models were professors in the medical school, and I thought, this was the place to be to make a difference. Watching all these role models, one thing you really learned is the dedication and commitment you have to have in medicine, and also altruism. We learned it's important when you practice medicine that you put the patient at the very center of everything that you do.
Dedication to care for the community is the hallmark of NUS medicine students who have been actively providing free health screening services to lower-income Singaporeans since 2008. Over the years, the student-initiated and led project has served thousands of lower-income Singaporeans across the island. As Dean, Professor Chong aims to nurture students who will make an even greater impact in the future.
The vision of the school is to inspire health for all. It means training doctors and nurses who can go beyond diseases and to start promoting health. It means educating patients and the public to take control of their own health. And it means reimagining how we do things so that we can truly inspire health for all.
To better equip students to serve the community, faculty members at NUS Medicine are developing and using innovative teaching methods in the classroom. Every year, close to 600 students graduate from NUS Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery, and Bachelor of Nursing programs. To equip them to be highly competent healthcare providers, the professors at NUS Medicine are always seeking to enhance their teaching methods and curriculum. An educator who innovates teaching with technology is Assistant Professor Shefaly Shorey. An award-winning professor, she developed a virtual counseling application known as Virtual Patients to train students in communication skills.
You mentioned about feeling low. Could you tell me more about this?
Don't know how to explain. Just that I am having a low mood.
Research has shown that nurses who effectively communicate with their patients tend to manage their health better. Here at NUS Nursing, we teach communication skills as a core module titled Communication and Cultural Diversity. However, that module is offered to Year 1 students. When the students are in Year 2 or Year 3, there is no reinforcement of communication skills. And our clinical stakeholders have shared with us that some of our students tend to feel very stressed out when they communicate with the patients and the family members. So this ignited that idea in my mind that why don't we use virtual reality and artificial intelligence to develop an app where students can communicate with the human avatars like virtual patients. So a virtual patient provided that safety net, provided that reinforcement anywhere, any place in communicating with the actual patient.
There are 4 scenarios that students can practice. At the end of each scenario, they will get feedback to improve their skills. So far, many like Priyadashini Rajendran have found it helpful.
I used to when I was a student during the trial phase. It gives us the opportunity to practice more. And this translates to more confidence in the clinical setting because when you're thrown into a situation where you never really know what kind of patients or healthcare workers you get to speak to, you are actually a little bit more prepared to face this real world.
A self-proclaimed tech noob, Professor Shorey enlisted a multidisciplinary team to develop the app.
We have educators from medicine and nursing, we have engineers, we have experts on information technology. We all work according to our strengths. I also made sure that we have students as participants in this research team so that they can give their own authentic experiences to develop these apps. I actually collaborated with clinical stakeholders and we looked out for authentic case scenarios, for example, actual patients' complaints, actual patients' compliments, so that students can get as close to as real-life experiences when they're actually learning from these virtual patients.
Research assistant Debbie Ng is part of the team behind the app, which is undergoing further development.
From student users, most of them said it was a novel approach and a refreshing method for them to learn communication skills. I think the only negative thing they said it was the speech recognition. So because when we speak, we tend to use the Singlish tone, the AI has a problem picking it up. So the team is currently working on improving that.
For her creative use of media and technology to improve learning outcomes, Professor Shorey received the Jove Innovation in Instruction Award in 2021. The Global Award is fitting recognition for this dedicated professor.
I have an inquisitive mind and I often look for ways which can enhance people's life. So innovation for me is being adaptable to change and look out for solutions through my research.
Hoping to also make a deeper impact on students' lives, she recently developed a new coaching module.
Okay, so we're going to talk about this ontological coaching, which is a new approach we are introducing. Ontological coaching enhances one's holistic well-being. Our goal was that we wanted to support our students beyond their academic needs. We have trained coaches from nursing, medicine, and from biosciences. So how we do it? Every student, it receives group session from us and then they are assigned to an individual coach. Students then individually bring their special needs. For example, it can be personal issues or professional issues. And then as coaches, we ask probing questions so that they can see things from a different perspective. So it's a groundbreaking approach. In Asia, we are the only medicine school where our students are being offered with this ontological coaching.
Despite her heavy workload, Professor Shorey actively contributes to the community. In 2021, she supported Singapore's fight against COVID-19 by burning weekends, training nurses who oversee operations at vaccination centres island-wide.
We were given only 2 weeks to develop the entire curriculum with, teaching videos and all that. So it was a bit in a rush, but I feel honoured and privileged that I was given a chance to serve my country. Pandemic has shown me that don't take things for granted. Things can change just in a moment. So treasure people around you, do your best each day, and if you're in a position, to serve others and make a difference in someone's life, I think that's a blessing.
Elsewhere in the university, a group of researchers are making a difference to children with cancer. Their advanced technology has cured patients once deemed untreatable. In Singapore, children with leukemia or blood cancer who have exhausted traditional treatment options now have hopes of being cured thanks to a novel treatment known as CAR T-cell immunotherapy. Then 5-year-old Oscar Saxelby Lee, who flew from Britain to Singapore to receive the treatment in 2019, is one such patient. He had an aggressive form of acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and his parents were told to prepare for the worst. After undergoing CAR T-cell immunotherapy at the National University Hospital, Oscar was declared cancer-free. His doctor, Associate Professor Alan Yeoh, is amazed at how effective the treatment is.
Previously, these children have only 20% chance of cure, even with high doses of chemotherapy on bone marrow transplant. But with CAR T therapy, 95% of them go into complete remission within 1 month. And on the average, 90% of them survive the treatment. So from 20%, we see a transformation to 90%. And that's why we are so excited over this possibility.
CAR T-cell therapy, which uses a patient's own immune system to fight cancer, was developed by Professor Dario Campana from the NUS Yong Lu Lin School of Medicine. This is how it works. T-cells, a type of white blood cell in the immune system, are genetically modified with a special protein called the chimeric antigen receptor, or CAR. Now called CAR T-cells, they are programmed to identify and destroy specific cancer cells. Although the treatment worked wonders for young Oscar, administering it was a nerve-wracking experience for the team of clinicians and researchers.
When Oscar first came, this boy was really malnourished, couldn't eat on the tube feed all the time, couldn't walk because his months and cycles of chemotherapy, a bone marrow transplant, an uncontrolled viral infection, then there he was at our doorstep. We harvested his immune cells. When the CAR T cells was ready, his leukemia was roaring back at that time. I still remember D-Day. His fever was going up.
The whole period leading up to the infusion was quite eventful. There was a lot of going back and forth as to whether or not we should change the date of infusion, give it some time for him to recover. We had to call people back and to activate more support for him during this potentially long Christmas holiday.
As time was not on their side, the team went ahead with treatment. To their relief, it worked.
We infused the cell, his fever settled, his leukemia disappeared, and he started getting better and better. The most touching part that I remember is sitting down with Oscar, Mummy and Dad. I think it's time to go home, right? He was getting better, he was walking, exercising and all that. And there he was, looked at me unbelievably with big eyes and said, "Yay!" And everybody shouted. So that smile, that spontaneity where, they could go back as close to normal. That's always what I wanted.
The happy outcome was the result of tireless teamwork.
So it's not a single one person making decision, but it's a whole collective wisdom that I would say coming together to make this a success.
The we included also the laboratory team in charge of making the CAR T cells. So it's really NUS and NUH, both teams working very closely together in common understanding that we are doing this for the patient.
Aligning research at NUS with clinical practice at NUH to provide patients with groundbreaking treatment options is possible because of the National University Health System, or NUHS.
What the NUHS as an academic health system has created is the ability for clinical talents to dedicate themselves to research, to do a PhD, to test out their ideas and bring these back into clinic. It's very important because that investment is for the future. My hope for cancer treatment is really to cure every child, every patient with leukemia. This means that actually the majority of them are curable with standard chemotherapy, 85%. For those that we cannot cure, then using immune cell therapy like CAR T cell therapy may offer hope for this group. I think this is possible with what we have now. For the future, I would like to expand this to other forms of cancer.
By spearheading advancements in medical research, innovating teaching methods, and nurturing future-ready doctors and nurses, the NUS Yongloo Lin School of Medicine is today at the forefront of reimagining how healthcare can be delivered. With its vision to inspire health for all, Singapore's first and now Asia's leading medical school will continue to shape the future of medicine.